Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Not Terrible Show with your hosts, Eric and Matthew, the return of our weekly podcast. And now, without further ado, here they are, Eric and Matthew. I'm Eric. He's Matthew.
I'm Matthew.
Welcome to the Not Terrible Show, or whatever we're going to call it. What are we going to call it? Are we still going with that? Since those other people co-opted our, who was it, Kim and Amber or something like that?
At first I thought that was, I thought you had put that up and that was our new page. I'm like, oh wait, he changed our names to.
Yeah. So somebody in the interim stole our name. Although they
don't have the, right?
Yeah, it was just Not Terrible Podcast. You're right.
That's totally different. We're the.
Yeah, you're right.
We're the Not Terrible.
So if I could start a restaurant called The McDonald's, right? Screw it.
McDowell.
Yeah, they got the Big Mac.
Golden Arches. Yeah, what are these? What?
They got the Big Mac, and we got the Big Mick. But anyway, so Christ, a lot of stuff going on in the world today.
Is it?
Most of it that I don't even care about. I care about it, but there's so much bad information, and I don't know, man. I was just going through my Facebook feed this morning, and I had mentioned this to you.
Why would you do a silly thing like that?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I had mentioned this to you before, that it was like some of my friends that maybe used to lean right or were right of center are, it's just
they fell over.
Worse and worse. It's just getting worse. Like, I just don't understand, and especially
their polarization.
Yeah, and I've got one friend who I was in the Navy with for a long time. And we had some good conversations. We mostly converse about football, but he's starting to post the QAnon stuff and all of those conspiracy things. And it's like, dude, what are you even doing? Like, how have you been able to turn off your critical thinking and just latch onto this? And they use their logic sometimes is just astounding. You know, they talk about, oh, you can't trust the media. Well, you can trust the QAnon website. So you're telling me I should think for myself, except for when these guys tell me something. You know, how do they have more information than me? Right? I don't know. But yeah, got that stuff going on. Got we're not supposed to say the name of it. The sickness out
Cervasis.
there.
The Cervasis
sickness.
That's George Gannon stole that from him. So,
but yeah, so just a lot of crazy things going on out there, and gosh, it would just be so easy, I think, to get on here and just go off on the administration, go off on all of that stuff. And I don't know if I have the energy for it anymore. Like, I've even stopped, for the most part, even responding or arguing with people on my feeds and stuff. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to unfollow. I'm just done with it. I'm not going to engage anymore because I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to keep up with all the crazy crap that people do.
Exactly.
So
it's all crazy crap.
Yeah. So now I use my Facebook mostly for posting puns. Find a good pun or two every morning. Throw that up on the wall. You know, say happy birthday to my friends. Move along.
Well, that's good.
What have you been up to, sir?
This and that, I suppose. I guess I've been following this Dr. Seaholt, who's a ICU doctor in Los Angeles, I believe, and they have a website called MedCram that helps like medical students, study, and they have, great instructional videos, whatever.
Mhm.
But he has a YouTube channel too, and he started doing updates on the cervasis sickness from the very beginning, even when he was like, 1,300 cases in
Okay,
China, and hopefully this will go away soon. Like, he didn't even know that this was going to blow up. But I've been following him so much, and he gives such great information, and really, such detailed, information that even, definitely goes beyond my, beyond my full understanding, because I don't, don't have all the biology back knowledge to be able to understand it. But he explains it in such a way that you really can just follow along, and the uncertainty of everything about, we don't know this or we don't know that, but this is one study came out here, and this is what this says. And, it's to such an extent that I can't follow like regular news because it's so, it's so parsed down for people to try to, just tell me what's real. Don't confuse me with facts. Just, like,
wasn't that?
I want to know the real information, and you find that's like getting less and less now.
Yeah,
you can't find people who, not even just on this, but experts. They won't give you the information and let you make the decision. They just tell you what you should think, and it's I might trust you, but I still want to know the information, because you could be wrong, and I want to be able to verify the information elsewhere.
Yeah, and there's, like, we can't all be doctors, right? We can't all be epidemiologists or biologists, like, and no one person can have all of the, like, there's no super epidemiologist, biologist, virologist, economist guy that can do everything and be the one person that does all of the things, right? I mean, maybe Newton or Galileo or somebody of that caliber, but barring that, so we have to find, those people that we can trust to give us good information. But even then, like, you have to look, like, where are you getting your information, or but like, ultimately, I can't pick up a medical study and look at it and understand most of it, right? Like, some of the stuff in there is just going to be foreign to me. And so that guy, Schmachtenberger, that was one of the things he said.
Daniel Schmachtenberger,
yeah, you've got to figure out who you can trust, what agenda they are running, and it may not be nefarious, like he said, even on purpose. It may be a byproduct of whatever it is that somebody is saying that doesn't necessarily jibe with what you're being shown. But ultimately, if you find somebody that, is giving good information and is not making it so simple that, like you said, they're telling you what to think rather than how to think, then you've got to, use those information sources to your best advantage. Unfortunately, I think what happens is that sometimes the powers that be see that true information or that real information doesn't further their own interests, right? And so now we've got to discredit that. We've got to say, that's fake news, even if it's not fake news, right? And I get that there is fake news out there. I totally understand that. But the term has become so overused that it's nothing now, right?
Right.
It's not a real thing anymore.
Well, it's a way of, it's a way of trying to ultimately discredit all information, to say that all information is suspect. There is no real information. You see in the tactics and the way that Donald Trump presents both sides of things. So he says both things. It's no big deal, and I knew it was a big deal all along. And whichever one turns out, like, he can just go back to the videotape and confirm, people can confirm that, yep, you knew it all along, or yep, you knew this wasn't, a big deal. But what that really does, and that's a propaganda tactic, is to make it so that we go into a post-truth world where anything is just not believed, and once we lose some sort of collective understanding and fact finding, we're going down a very dark road.
Yeah, oh no, definitely.
It's not just on a Donald Trump side either. I kind of don't even get outraged by him anymore, because I feel like I really understand him, and even a lot of the things that I catch that are, like, he said this thing was outrageous, and then I see what he said, and I'm like, no, it's actually not that outrageous. Like, and he's doing it and some of it is just incompetence, and you got to understand, just like anybody, like these people, the Trump administration, the people, and they actually care about the country, they care about people, and they're actually trying to do what they think is the right thing, which, I mean, I would think is totally wrong, and for many reasons, and I would have those debates, but just to be like, oh, he's just an evil guy trying to tear down everything, it's like, it's not helpful. Like, it just clouds your mind with anger and vitriol, and you really can't have what I would think of clarity of mind. I saw a good interview on Rolling Stone with Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper, and there was two comedians who had been doing a tour where one of them played Trump and the other played Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
And they developed this, skit, and they, thinking that, oh, maybe these will be the two candidates and they could keep going, now it's done. But the guy who did Trump was like, he's like, I went back and I looked at all of his speeches from the very beginning, like, very painful, like, cause he's just like, but I did it, so I wanted to get the mannerisms and get everything down, and he's like, he felt like he got a real sense. He's like, you could watch Trump like coming into his own, like he just loved the adulation of the crowd, like he just soaked it up, and he was kind of like kind of doing his stand-up shtick, and he kind of thinks of himself as a rat packer, like a, this was his words, like a rat packer, like he thinks of himself as what he thinks how a man should hold himself, like Frank Sinatra or somebody. But then he's like, what he kind of moves more like like an old woman, kind of.
Yeah.
It came to my mind like Maude or somebody, like kind of kind of like gliding around, in the kind of awkward way, but that's his, and people love him and he loves them, and when he first got elected, I was thinking, oh, this, if he gets elected, he's the greatest con man that ever lived, and then now I'm like, no, he's not. Like, Obama's much better con man. Like, that's what a politician is a confidence man. It's somebody to give you confidence when they know for fact that they cannot tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
They know it's political suicide to tell you the truth. And to me, that's sad. And that's why I thought like Bernie Sanders was really kind of our only hope, because he is uniquely like more genuine.
Yeah.
Like, he actually like tells you what he thinks, and then people hate him for that. They're like, oh, we like him because he's genuine, but we don't like him because he wouldn't lie, and he wouldn't, like he wouldn't knife Joe Biden in the back, like if he says he's his friend and he thinks that he can win, he's being honest. And so people can't have it both ways. You can't scream that Hillary Clinton's a liar and then, oh, Bernie Sanders would have done much better if he could just been a liar, like,
right.
Which, like, you're schizophrenic. You don't know what you want. That's the problem. So you got to be a confidence man to hold a high office like that. And that's sad.
Yeah.
That's just going to lead to, our mutual self-destruction in the end, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not for anybody that I'll ever know, but it could.
Well, and it ends up making all of the anti-whoever people more towards their own side, and all of the pro whoever people more towards their own side. Like you said, we just get increasingly polar. And there's times when I think, wouldn't it be nice if we could just go our separate ways, right? Like cut a line down the middle of the country and say, all right, you guys go over there, we're going to be over here. but that wouldn't really help, right? Because then within our divisions we would start to subdivide. We'd say, now we've got all the West Coast to ourselves and we all think this way. No, wait a minute, we don't think that way, we want the North now. So ultimately you've got to find a way to coexist. And I think one of the things that always kind of, I see some people that say, oh, I don't engage in political talk, or I don't talk about politics. And it's like, well, maybe instead of that attitude, we should take the attitude and learn how to civilly talk, how to communicate with people about political ideas in a rational manner, rather than just not talking about it, because just not talking about it isn't working, right? Like,
right.
People have not talked about it for so long that they forgot how to talk about it, and now, it just leads to all of us being dumb about it. We don't understand how things could or should or have been to some extent.
Yeah, because I guess the systems are so complex that people realize that there's no way they're going to grasp them, so they cede their authority to somebody who they think is smarter and knows, but yet they can't articulate what it is. So if they get an argument, they're like, well, I know if so-and-so were here, if Sean Hannity were here, he'd rip you a new one, and I'm not sure I'd want to have to debate Barack Obama, because
right,
he's a silver-tongued devil, man. He can talk a Eskimo out of a igloo. I don't know that doesn't make sense.
But sell freezers to Eskimos, right? Or something. Is Eskimo, are we okay to say that word? I don't know that we are. Are they Inuits or?
No, I'm just talking about the signifier of the racist idiom that I grew up with. That's all.
Okay.
I'm sure nobody actually ever tried to sell the Inuit or the native peoples of the Arctic region ice cubes. I'm pretty sure that never happened. That's it's not supposed to be a racial slur about them. It's like, you're racist because you think native peoples are so ignorant they would buy ice cubes. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying.
Oh goodness. So
yeah, that's the joy though. That's the thing that happens too, right? So we're, of course, to me as well, is that once we start down the road of polarization, and like you said, you don't have the energy to chase down all the leads, from people that you think are friends. I had to do that with my foster father. Like, it started making me nuts, like, I don't want to see it, and I don't want to have to chase down and explain why this is just insanity. Like, you just because it says it on a meme, all of a sudden you're using that for your rage,
Well, but
what it does is it allows you to, like, look, and as soon as you find one piece of information, you're like, so if somebody says something and you're like, not sure, what you look for is some sort of thing to allow you to just deny everything that they believe. But I sort of did that, like with Sam Harris. So, right. So, and I guess he still makes this kind of argument. That's what I would call or you brought it to my attention, or the no true Scotsman, argument. And he uses that for religion. So any use of religion that's, a benefit or a higher order is, you're not really religious. You're not doing it right. That's what he's like, you're not doing it right. If you're not doing Islam as jihadist, where you're, you want to destroy the world or whatever, then you're not a real, you're not a real Muslim. And it's like, well, that's just That's just kind of, so that's just the you're just insulating your argument from being falsified at all, and you're not really, so like I just take that point and then take the point that other people are calling him right wing, and I'm like, yep, just dismiss everything.
Yeah.
Like that's he's the enemy, and now I've listened to him, and I still would disagree with him on those points, but he's not that guy that I made him up into my head as some right wing.
Yeah.
And and a lot of his experiences, like early on, like he's like more like me, like grew up, wanted to be the hippie, and like I wanted to, always dreamt about, I wish I could have been at Woodstock, and been that hippie, until you realize that a lot of what I ended up seeing of those sort of people in a lot of several different like genres is it didn't hold up to, like, they weren't like open and welcoming, and it was very so it's you come up against that reality, you had that romanticized fantasy, and
yeah,
I don't want to dismiss the the real counterculture movement of the 60s, which was like very important, but by the time that I got to kind of try to experience it, it had already been like commodified and like as spectacle and devoid of any of the actual drop out and tune in kind of deal. Is that, I don't know if that's the actual saying, but that's actually what I think you should do. Drop out and tune into what's real, people, and not this the structure, but it's like all been enveloped into the into the structure again. So like I never really got to like experience what that actually entailed, just the marketed. I go buy my tie-dye shirt and grow my hair long and pretend I'm counterculture while being exactly like every other person in the culture that's only responding in response to the culture. So you're still part, if you're just reacting to the mainstream culture, then you're just a product of the mainstream culture.
Right.
You can't claim to be outside of it.
Yeah, what was a post I saw, kind of circle back around to something you said about just finding one tiny thing wrong with an argument and using it to dismiss the entire thing. There was a post I saw the other day, and it was about virus stuff, and it kept going down and got into some of the Chinese stuff, and the guy posted that as a fact. He posted that every Chinese person is required by law to have a cell phone, and they use it to track, their everything about them and where they are and whether or not they've had their vaccinations and all of this. And I'm like, that can't possibly be true. I can't imagine that 1.3 billion Chinese people all have cell phones,
yeah.
including all the ones living in mud huts in rice fields out in the middle of nowhere, China, right? and sure enough, I look it up, and only like 600 million Chinese people have cell phones. The rest don't, and so it's like, now I want to go back and discount his entire thing and get into this huge argument. I'm like, yeah. And now I've done all this research, I'm not even going to go back to the post,
Well, they do have don't they have a QWERTY code on their people who do have the cell phones? I mean,
yeah, no,
which might not go over
so well. That's not to discount that there's not a surveillance state. I'm entirely certain that there is.
Yeah.
But to use the absolute that every Chinese person is required by law to own a phone is, how can you even type that out? How did your fingers make those letters appear on your screen without thinking or even once going to Google how many Chinese people own Chinese?
Yeah, you pretty much I mean, you're pretty much anytime you're going to use an extreme of word like all or never or
Yeah.
always, like you pretty much know that you're off track.
Right.
I do it myself.
Well, that's the Star Wars quote, right? Is only the Sith deal in absolutes.
Right. Yeah, so I try to. I think it's part of the polarization is the change in our language where we use more and more absolute language.
Well,
Definitely
absolute
notice
and
myself, and I try to like cut back on that and say, okay, let me talk more reasonably, because if you talk more reasonably and you talk about where you got your information or why you actually believe what you believe, all of a sudden it doesn't have as much power, but yet it's in a way like it's more powerful because it's actually real, like information, and people can actually make their own decisions. But when you hide, and this is what we were talking about, like experts, they just tell you what they think, right? They don't actually tell you what the evidence is and what percentage. Usually, I mean, everything should be kind of a probability in belief, right? I've always tried to be of the mind that I'm always willing to change my mind on anything, but some things I've thought a lot about, so it's pretty hard to like get in there and change my mind on things that I've spent a lot of time, thinking about. But I'm still willing to, to try to listen and try to even change certain aspects of that. Oh, maybe that aspect was wrong, and it's always kind of like shocking because it's always shocking and always because I always want to. You always want to try to set it and go. Like, okay, I know that. I don't have to think about that anymore. And then somebody says something to the, that totally like flips that upside down, and I'm just like, oh, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? And then you go look it up. And I'm like, oh wait, there's actually something there. Like it was me like holding on to that, to that information that, like was usually information has a true part of it, or is absolutely true from only that perspective, but it doesn't really take in the whole complexity of the issue. So it's like there was in one of my first MBA classes, somebody did a presentation, and they gave two what sounded like contradictory pieces of data. Like they definitely like my mind, and not only mine, but another friend of mine, we're like, those don't go together. Like how? So I asked the question, which was a wrong thing to do. like I became a pariah in class for wanting to like find out information,
wanting to understand something more fully, right?
Like,
how dare you?
Just wanted to get along, to go along to get along. Don't challenge anybody. Don't ask information. And the speaker was she just didn't know. She just said those two things were true. And then one of her people in her team, who pretty much like almost got pretty aggressively male, and just like somebody else had said, oh shit just got real, like he came to life and tried to just talk words around just nonsense, but they never explained it. And then I went later and researched those two pieces of information and chased them both down to credible sources where you would source information, and could never figure out why. I couldn't figure out why there were two pieces of contradictory information that were in two different places. There was something else to the picture, bigger picture. Because both of those things were probably real. But like, but most people are just like, they didn't even like think about it. They put it in their own presentation. There's no reason to put both things in one presentation, right? Like nobody even. It's just. But that's because it doesn't really give you a whole picture. Facts and information. It gives you one small part of it, and I think maybe partially because of technology, right? Things that physically work in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to, because like we don't know how television works, right? Or really the signals, like come in, or computer, works, or I guess like an airplane works. We just know that they do. So that leads you down the road of trusting that like experts and people actually do know what they're talking about. But once they go over into areas that are far more complex that really can't be seen, and even like, I mean, once you can start learning about it, like the Windows operating system or something, no one person could possibly wrap their head around the whole thing. There's so many people putting in their little parts and doing their parts but it looks like it's just like one person. But those things, I guess, like Daniel Schmachenberger says, I mean, you could get, those are complicated systems, but they can have blueprints, and then different people can focus on one part and they can all come together, put it. But a complex system is too complex. Like, we're never going to figure out. That's why you can't even predict the sunset, like, exactly, because there's too many variables in the atmosphere and the heat, what's going to affect the visuals, like, there's too many factors. So it's like weather, right? There's just too many factors that we can't,
Yeah, definitely. Weather and climate and all of that. And circle back a little bit there on like how an airplane flies, right? So we rely on an expert, and the problem I think sometimes arises is that you then get things that happen like the recent what was it, the 737 Max or the 757, whichever plane it was that was having all those problems,
right?
So now all of a sudden the experts fucked everything up, right? They made a plane that shouldn't have been in the sky, at least to some degree. And so then that,
I mean, as far as I can tell, I mean, that is my information, is that they didn't want to redesign the plane, and they wanted to put the heavier engine that would be more fuel efficient so that they could compete.
Yeah.
And so instead of reinventing the fuselage so that it would be more aerodynamic, they just put the engine where it was, making it more top heavy, and then tried to compensate that by having the computer system that would pull the nose up. And it didn't work. And
addressing symptoms instead of the
disease. As far as I know right now, that plane should never fly. It should never fly. I would not. I don't think I would get on one.
Yeah, and so and the unfortunate thing,
I could be wrong. I mean, but that seems like the information. I haven't heard anybody refute those data facts, right? those pieces of information.
And
maybe I should look harder.
Well, but the problem then becomes that you'll have a group of people that will then say, well, they fucked up this airplane. What makes you think that all of these other airplanes are any better? And now I'm not going to fly anywhere, right? And so they're going to become, I'm a flight truther. I don't fly because flying is impossible. Those are all fake planes, right? So how do you deal with that person? Like, you can't, right? You've just got to disengage and say this isn't a person I can deal with. Like, short of breaking them down totally and rebuilding them as a person with new thought processes, like, you're just done. How do you deal with a person that still believes the earth is flat? You don't. I think you can't. There's some level of information sharing or information mistrust that you can't get beyond, right? And that goes back to Sam Harris. One of my absolute favorite quotes from him is, if somebody doesn't believe in reason or logic, what reasonable or logical argument can you use to convince them that those things are valuable, right? You can't.
Right.
They've abandoned those things, and so you draw your own.
So it's hard to bring somebody to realize something intellectually when they arrived at it emotionally.
Yeah.
So unless they uncoupled the emotionality of it and realize that, then you're just going to be further alienating them in your conversation with them. It's the difference between having a debate with somebody or having a dialogue with somebody. Hopefully in a dialogue you can come out and have a new understanding. Both parties can have a new understanding, and maybe things that they want to look up or like elevate themselves on, to a higher level. I think of information as, they talk about standing on the shoulders of giants. I think of information and as like a kind of like an erector set, and you have to ask reasonable questions to help build that erector set as high as you can, and you can get up on that. And then you want people who are going to join you up there and help you to maybe take down part that maybe wasn't right, or put up, have a framework of logic to be able to come to a new understanding of the complexity of the world, because it's so complex. And you get people who are just live very narrow lives, and I'm thinking about elites, rich people who just go to Ivy League. They were the star in their high school,
Yeah.
And they just go to, they're coddled in the, in rich universities, and then they think they understand how to rule the world, when they have they have very limited life experience at all and it just, that's not the people that so many people that are politicians and are just so disconnected from what a real person's life is like. That's why it seems more like Bernie Sanders was more of he understood. He actually tried to go and help, and the Immokalee workers down in Florida, even though he's a senator from Vermont, go down there, help them, talk with people. You see him out there with his coat, getting his own votes. Oh, the hunchback of not terrible.
There we
go. Oh, there's another people. I can't call people hunchbacks.
Why not? That's a thing too. Is that? Yeah, I guess it's with all. Can't call anybody anything anymore.
Exactly.
How dare you
have to
shut down my power structures?
Shut down conversation at all costs. Because you got your one stick of the erector set. There's nothing else. You're just the one stick, and you're like, I'm holding on to this stick. You can't make me not believe in its stick. There's nothing more to this stick.
So
okay, good luck with that.
Let's get a little less deep. You know what I'm missing, I think, the most with all of this craziness right now is movies. Haven't been to a movie in a long time now, and I'm starting to get withdrawals. I know you had said you kind of stopped consuming a lot of that stuff, but I don't know. I'm still a movie dude, I guess.
Yeah, I try to look for stuff more. For me, it's harder and harder to find stuff that I find intellectually stimulating or satisfying. And the more I kind of look at long form podcasts and conversation and read, the less tolerance I have for the quick moving, spectacle that's got nothing behind it. I enjoy. I've been enjoying Westworld and Better Call Saul. I guess coming up is the last episode of Better Call Saul. So,
maybe then I'll watch
season.
Of this season?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I won't watch it until it's totally over. Even then, I still won't. So.
Yeah, you might have. I think you dodged the bullet there on you either dodged the bullet or you missed the only fun in Game of Thrones, because now it's over and I don't recommend watching it.
The ending ruined it that bad for you, huh?
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I guess in the last season, I guess there are things that you expected and were fine, but then the culmination at the end was just like a total like, we're not sure what to do here, so we're just gonna tie up all these loose ends in a very unsatisfying way, in direct opposition to what we've been doing all along.
Yeah.
First, 6 seasons or however many seasons it was. It's just, but hey, that's their thing. So
yeah. So yeah, we had bought, maybe in January, might have been a little earlier. The Regal Cinemas has the unlimited, so you can go to all the movies you want to for $20 a month, right? And
now
we
they
were
have a
going to all
sale
the
on it, really
movies.
cheap.
Like,
all the movies you want to see, unlimited, $0, 0 cents.
yeah,
So
now it is. Well, luckily the nice thing is I wrote them an email. I'm like, hey, we have this subscription and you closed all your theaters. And they're like, oh, we'll refund your subscription this month. And we'll do it for next month too, but you've got to email us again. And I'm like, whatever. I guess I can send an email. It's not that big a deal.
Right.
Which I just sent yesterday for this month. But yeah, so we were going to like every movie. Like, I don't really want to see this movie, but we're going. Damn it, because we paid.
Gotta get my money's worth.
That's right. I'll show Regal. But yeah, so I miss that. I'm still working during all of this stuff. We, as a public transit worker, we're considered critical infrastructure.
Right.
A lot of people depend on us to get around, although it seems like we're transporting more. And so during this whole thing, we're taking pretty good steps. I feel like our company has been good and proactive. We've got teams of cleaners at the end of the line on both ends of every bus route that get on the bus and sterilize all the touch points and really do a good job of that. They've blocked off seating so that they can maintain social distancing on the bus. We've instituted no more than, X amount of people on each size of bus. We've blocked off the area up front. We've made it all rear boarding so nobody has to come on and be in contact with the driver, which unfortunately the byproduct of that is that we aren't enforcing fare right now. So basically it's free to ride the bus, which I don't have a problem with that. But then the byproduct of that is that a lot of the transients and the homeless population just get on the bus and they just ride the bus all day. They're not going anywhere. They just want to get on the bus and ride the bus around because it's not sitting in a tent or sitting on the side of the road somewhere. It's, a comfortable climate adjusted seat. And I generally don't have a problem with that necessarily either, except for that because we've got these distancing guidelines where we can only have a certain amount of people on the bus. If I've got somebody that's not going anywhere taking up a seat that somebody that does need to go somewhere could use, that creates an issue, right? And that's probably the least favorite part of my job as a supervisor. They've kind of kicked me out of my office. They don't want me hanging around in the office because of social distancing. They're like, all right, we need you out in the field, so just go out and schmooze with the public and answer questions. And so, the least favorite part is going on buses and saying, listen, you got to get off. I can't have you just riding around. And I hate doing it, but it's part of what I have to do, unfortunately. But at the same time, I've got work. I'm in a better situation than a lot of people are right now. I can still pay my rent and pay my bills and not have to worry about that kind of thing. And so, things are better than they could be for me.
Did you see the movie Parasite?
I did not yet. I don't. I haven't. I know that I'll enjoy it. I just haven't psyched myself up enough to have to read while I watch it.
Yeah, I hear you. Sometimes, like, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I really liked it. Trudy was on some of those movies that make a social statement. She likes it up until the end, and then like something about the ending. Same way with the movie. Is it Pardon? Pardon the Interruption? Is that the name of
I don't know if I know
the
that
movie about the telemarketer guy who he gets the silky like white person sounding voice, and
Oh yeah, no, I did watch that. You're right.
like she liked that right until up at the end, and then she's just like, oh, it gets absurd at the end, and then you know, and it's when the ending is on both of those like I really like, you know,
Yeah,
like
I
it's
know.
making a very concrete, you know, social statement, and that
Yeah.
kind of I think rubs her the wrong way. She doesn't like that. She's just like, oh, that's absurd, that's nonsense, or whatever. But I really enjoyed it. I guess Parasite is not going to be a television series now, huh?
I haven't seen that. Is it?
Yeah, Netflix or something like.
Dude, Netflix is, man, they are going nuts with the content, just creating, or
Yeah.
and not necessarily just creating. Like, it's cool. One of the things I like that I've seen is the importing of a ton of content. So we're seeing a lot of TV shows that came out of like Brazil or Korea or all these other countries that they
Right.
redubbed for our consumption here in America. It's like, wow, how different other cultures see the world, and it can only, I think, in the end, be a good thing, right? to 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 globalize to some extent. Which, sorry to use that bad word that so many people hate, but it's a
Right.
fact of life.
Yeah, I heard talking about certainty, right? And it seems like you find like the less people know about something, like the more certain they are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That they actually do know what they're talking about. So I
That
think the
was Neil
example
deGrasse Tyson, right? He there's a correlation and an anti-correlation there. Yeah.
with the what?
That's one of the things he says is the more you know about something, the less certain you are that you know anything, right?
Right.
That effect.
Well, it's more so the example they had given is like a photographer. So if you take somebody who's really good photographer and ask them like how good a photographer they are, they're more likely to be realistic about how good they are because
Yeah.
they're more aware of everything that they know that they don't know and what the parameters are. When you take somebody who doesn't know anything about photography, they're much more likely to overestimate themselves, saying that they're even, like they're even better than, on a scale, irrespective of the other person, but they're more confident in their abilities than the person who's actually better, because their understanding of the issue is so limited that they feel like I'm already almost all the way there. They haven't even like broken
They don't
through.
know what they don't know.
And I find like, so I took that and you kind of look at my own beliefs, and it's like, yeah, it's almost like a correlation. The things that I know a lot about, I know how much there is that I don't know. Like cooking, like I get a lot of compliments on cooking and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not really a very good cook, like I don't really have a lot of techniques down. Like I can make some stuff that tastes good and I know whether it tastes good or not. And like, but other people who think they're like really good cooks or even worse than me, because they don't even know what they don't know, right?
Yeah.
They don't know that there's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
And one of the things was I kind of felt myself like understanding different cultures and like the way that understanding like the diversity of people across different nations and how different people or different cultures interact, and then watching a Netflix series I think it's called Dangerous Comedy.
Okay.
And it's got about 5 or 6 episodes, and they go They talk to some veterans who set up these like comedy channels, and like what's funny to people that are, you know, on the outside, and they go to like Saudi Arabia, stand-up comics in Saudi Arabia. They go to Nigeria and different places, people that have experienced great trauma, and to find out what is funny even in those like most horrific situations, you know.
Yeah.
So if you have a murderous extremist cult who's like they're dragging a body back into the compound and everybody's laughing like it's hysterical, like that's like comedy, like. And you, like, so I watch these episodes, and it's like, oh, now I realize like just how much I don't know. Like, I felt like I watched like a pretty good clip of like seeing the comedy in a culture really gives you a sense of what the culture is. So, say like, I think in Nigeria, right, they actually have like a rape culture, right? So it's like all of a sudden, like I'm like, oh yeah, this is what everybody's getting on about. Like, oh, there's rape culture, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? We have rape culture, like, and then you like look in Nigeria where rape is like a main part of comedy, and you know it's in TV sitcoms, and you know stand-up comics talk about it, and
Yeah.
like it's like, oh, that's actual rape culture, and then it's like, well, first you're being like disingenuous to think that any kind of, you know, the slightest sexism can be equated to rape culture when there's actually, you know, people who are going, you know, through such a, you know, horrific state, and a lot of, you know, countries where women are looked as, you know, as second, you know, as not equal humans to men, you know, and but just to be able to see those different cultures and what's funny in like Saudi Arabia, like just understood, like, yeah, I really know nothing about the world and 7.5 billion people, like just like, but people who know even less are just way more confident that just my little provincial experience is that's the whole world, and I know what right and what wrong is, and you know, and that's just the way it is. So I would definitely recommend that on Netflix for anybody to watch. I tried to peddle it when I first, one of the best things I ever watched, and like nobody was interested. Like they're like,
I don't even think I've ever seen it show up on my feed. I probably have a much different feed than you. I've been rewatching all.
I've actually, I have stopped Netflix. I stopped my subscription to Netflix. I couldn't find anything I wanted to watch on it. Like it was just like so hard. And we have Hulu, which my sister-in-law, I guess she enjoys it because it's got all the old-time like TV shows.
Yeah.
And then we got Amazon Prime, so I don't see.
There's a ton there, yeah.
And then I got HBO through the Amazon Prime because.
So
I mean, I'm ready to disconnect from Dish TV. We have Dish satellite. It's totally useless. I'm just paying $130 a month for basically nothing.
Well, you know,
it gives me access to YouTube and Amazon Prime is through my Xbox, but I don't need it to cast on the screen. The only thing that like we really have to figure out for my wife is how are we going to be able to watch NASCAR races?
Yeah.
Make sure that we can record them. And it looks like through Hulu, if you get
there might be a Fox.
There's a Hulu premiere or a YouTube premiere that, at least of as last year, that you could get all the NASCAR races. Which would be better if I could get somebody to actually just record them. Like, because like we don't always watch them, and sometimes they pile up, and then like my wife won't watch sometimes the Xfinity race. I mean, she used to like Elliott Sadler, but he retired, so she used to watch the Xfinity races a lot, you know. But so we record both, but then if they get rained out, and I've recorded them and didn't watch them, like I don't know that they got rained out. It doesn't automatically set up the recording for the re-race. So sometimes I'll, like almost miss stuff, or if it was delayed, sometimes it's delayed for hours, because of rain, like, so it would help if we're not going to watch it live, that somebody could just record it and we could be making it available to us later.
We pay for cable through Cox, but I pay for it a lot because the wife likes to watch a lot of stuff on a few channels that you can only get with the one package, right? But
right.
Secondarily to that, the way Cox does, or I should say Comcast here does their internet, I can only get the top tier internet speeds if I have a cable and phone package with them. So
if I phone package.
Yeah, a fucking house phone.
We want to put this useless boulder in your yard.
No, I don't even have to have the phone. I don't have to have an actual phone hooked up. I just have to have the package. So we don't
just have to pay for it.
I have a phone number, that I have to pay for, but I'm not hooking a phone up to it because who the fuck am I going to give a house phone number to? Like, call me on my cell phone, text me. Who's the only person that would have that number is a telemarketer, and I don't want to hear from him, right? So.
Right.
But that's the only way to get the top tier internet package that I want, right? So
that's insane. I thought they did away with that, man.
No, everything
that used to be the old scam. I mean, I did away with cell phone a long time ago. I mean, a house phone a long time ago.
You can get if you just do the internet package, you can get 300 gigabytes. I think is max, which probably would be enough for me. Maybe not with as much other stuff as we stream, but in order to get the gigabyte internet that I want, then you have to have all of the packages.
Wow, that's a lot more than we get.
I'm surprised that
we only get 100.
I'm surprised they haven't made me bundle in either their cell phone service, because Comcast has cell phone service now, or their home alarm system. I'm just waiting for the home security system to have to be bundled in there too next. Son of a bitch. But so
we need you to hire this guy to stand in your front yard 3 days a week.
Right. So
we're not going to do anything.
We pay for the Netflix, pay for the Amazon Prime, pay for Hulu. I also pay for CBS All Access so I can watch Picard and Discovery.
Oh my goodness.
What other subscription services is Eric paying for? I couldn't even tell you. I pay.
I guess eventually
Origin for gaming.
Spotify.
Yeah, I pay Well, the nice thing is though, I pay for Spotify, which gives me free Hulu. So really, I'm really paying for Hulu and getting free Spotify in my mind, right?
Okay.
But whichever way it works out, it doesn't matter. Oh, and Disney, we pay for Disney Plus. Actually, I take that back. Verizon right now is paying for Disney Plus because Verizon did a deal where if you went in and signed up, you would get a year free from them. So we've got a year free of Disney Plus, but I'll resubscribe once that runs out because for the Mandalorian. But,
I don't know. I mean, I subscribed to Disney Plus for several more months than I should have because, I mean, I signed up, I watched The Mandalorian, I liked it, and then I was like, okay, there's nothing else on here.
Yeah.
Even at one point, I'm like, all right, let me see if I can, like, go back and watch these, what are they, 4 Marvel films that are all part of this end sequence kind of deal. And then it's like, oh, the first one's not even available on Disney Plus. And I'm like,
yeah.
So, yeah, I guess it was available on Netflix or whatever, and I tried to watch it. I didn't make it through at all.
They're going to bring all of that stuff in-house. The problem is that they had, prior to launching their own network, they had parsed everything out.
Yeah.
And eventually it'll all be back. But even still, sitting down someday and deciding to watch all 22 Marvel Universe films, right? Like that's a
well, I wasn't going to watch all of them, but just the
end sequence.
But I couldn't even get through that. But so I held on, and then I'm like, I don't even know how to cancel Disney. I'm like, because they make it very easy to sign up. Like,
oh yeah, no,
it's like on Xbox or something. If you want to sign up for something, you just go click, just click it. And you want to unsubscribe? Well, you have to go to the website, and then they make it hard. Then you're like clicking around. You're like, where? Like you can't even find it. And like I gotta Google how to find it on this website, and then it like tells you. So yeah, I canceled the Disney Plus, and I canceled the Netflix because we don't really watch it. I don't know. I guess Trudy had watched. She just watched like Breaking Bad like a few months ago. Like like 6 months ago or whatever. She started to get into it and like watched the whole thing. And then I don't know. Our friend is into this lion psycho people thing.
Oh yeah, Tiger King.
Yeah, Tiger. I don't
I
find
watched
that.
like the first 2.
I don't find that interesting at all.
It was meh. Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes. I wasn't super into it. It's kind of silly.
Silly people talking about silly stuff. Like, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get those people exist. I don't know why I want to watch something about them. I understand why that's good entertainment and spectacle. It's just not something I find intellectually satisfying at all. I don't feel like I'm really learning anything about the human condition but maybe you do, maybe you do discover that by listening, to the people. It's too sensationalist for me. I don't know. There's nothing attractive about it. At first, when I saw it pop up on the Netflix, I thought maybe this is one of the Ziegfeld and Roy. I thought it was one of those dudes. Like, okay, now he's all by himself and living in a cave somewhere with his lion or something. But no, it's just regular people or like big cats. And I was actually watching another thing about they were talking about people that like big cats or like hunting big cats are all like pretty out there, like because they all think of themselves as like an apex predator beyond the rules of society, and that's like, I don't know if that's true or not, but the Tiger King the Tiger King series seems to fit right into that narrative. That I don't know any people that have personally that have had big cats in their house or have have gone hunting big cats.
Yeah.
Although in the Unitarian Church where I met my wife Trudy, the new minister had been hired, and they were looking for a house, and they looked at this one house that outside had a like this stone tiger like statue, like very out of place for a residential home, but okay. And they go inside, and upstairs there's like a room that had a rug, and it looked like a tiger had like scraped through the floor, through the rug, and into the hardwood floor. Like there's just a big gouge marks, and this was like, okay, I guess that's a tiger. With your tiger statue outside, and then maybe they just wanted to look badass. I don't know. That could convince anybody, right? Maybe put some urine smell around, so they like, oh yeah, these people had big cats. It's like, now they just made it look like that.
Right.
more likely they did have the big cat.
Yeah, I haven't known, I think, anybody with crazy exotic pets. I think the most exotic pet I've known somebody to have is ferrets, and those aren't even that exotic. So.
Yeah, my sister had. She had bought a tarantula.
Okay.
And turns out, like, if you get a tarantula when they're younger, like, and you handle them, you can handle them, and then they'll grow up, and then they'll be big, and you can just handle them. And she was always too scared to handle it. So she never handled the
Yeah,
tarantula.
I think I probably am not going to do that.
But yeah, we're going back to that. You're talking about not talking about politics. My sister has that in her head that we don't talk about politics, and sometimes like when we're at gatherings, she's even denounced that to the people. It's like, yeah, me and Matt, we don't talk about these things, and it's like, and I'm just thinking, I never made that agreement at all. I'm not part of this.
What you mean is you don't talk about politics.
I understand what you believe now, but I've never agreed to not talk about anything. And obviously, I don't, like I'm not there to be confrontational or try to rip somebody down. And
yeah,
much rather talk about something that that we have mutually in common, or something that we could have a productive conversation about. So but I'm certainly not on board with having topics of conversation that are off the table. But my sister believes that we have that arrangement, I guess.
Oh goodness. Oh well, what else is going on, bud?
My dogs are enjoying the quarantine because I've started to walk them.
Oh, look at you!
Walk them around the neighborhood.
Well,
so now, now an effect is that every time after a few hours, and they start looking at me like, "You going for a walk again? Is it time to go for a walk? Let's go for a walk." So pretty much they would just be satisfied if all we did was go for a walk.
All we did was
if we just walked all day. That's the dog's life.
Yeah.
The good life.
Yeah, I would.
But it helped me. I guess I'm getting exercise. And
yeah, definitely.
The one dog, Love Bug, we didn't go this past year, but the year before they have a, it's called, I think it's a National Association for Mental Illness. I don't know, it's NAMI, N-A-M-I. They have a walk each year in October. And they kind of go downtown Phoenix, and you kind of walk around in circles.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like 2 miles or something, or 1.5 miles. And we had brought Love Bug, and she was actually probably weighs less than she weighs now. She keeps going up and away. Every time we bring her to the vet, it's like, oh, now she weighs more, and now she weighs more. And last time we brought her, she weighed 97 pounds.
Oh, Jesus.
She should probably be.
She weighs like
maybe 65 or 70 pounds. So, but even when we had taken her, like, she was all excited to go, but then it was kind of warm. It's not that cool in October.
Yeah.
Out here sometimes, and on the pavement walking around, and then they had, they invite people with their dogs and stuff, and then they have like these big pools where the dogs can drink out of, and sometimes they can stand in it, and so she just like flopped down. She like flopped down in the pool. Which the guy's like, nobody's done that yet. And I was happy that she made it like all the way around without. I thought for sure that because sometimes like if she gets in trouble or whatever, and I want to make her have a timeout, she's like, nope. She'd just like flop on the ground, like,
that's that.
You can't drag me. You can't drag me. Like, so I was like afraid we were walking around like at some point, because she was exhausted. She was just going to be like, I'm done. And just like flop down and refuse to move. And then we'll be like, how are we getting her back to the car? But
yeah.
So I'm trying to get her in shape for her NAMI walk in October, if we still have a society that doesn't break apart.
Yeah.
I heard a Harvard economist give it that society had a 5 to 10% chance of breaking apart, and I'm like, I'll take those odds.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm good. 90% we're staying. I'm like, I'm just like, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
I have kind of looked into it a little bit, and it's just kind of frightening, you know.
No, that's definitely
But
true.
maybe I see it. I also see a lot of, you know, like positive things where people are kind of realizing what's important, and
True.
you know, the connections, and like walking around sometimes that feels more friendly. Sometimes, you know, like different people want to try to connect. But then I also, you know, walking around the neighborhood, I also see the Trump skull stickers, and
Yeah,
I'm
get a lot
not
of
so
that.
sure about the skull, you know, like,
Yeah.
so, you know, okay, there's one people, they have a tree house, like this big 2-story like deck or whatever, and they got a Trump, you know, banner, like that they obviously want to make sure people can see when they drive by, you know, it's all
Yep.
lit up all the time, and like, oh, I'll take that over the skulls, like,
Yeah.
fucking skulls, you know, and that's what you're saying with the QAnon, you know, or QAnon or whatever the hell that is, you know, and then they have a sticker on the windshield of the W, you know, where we go one, we go all,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like,
That's
and then you see a veteran's license plate or somebody with a skull
Yeah.
sticker and a Chris Kyle under the name. I'm like, what? I'm like, what is that? Like, oh my. Like,
Yep.
okay. That's one way to go, I guess. Good luck with
Yeah.
that.
And it's so it just is so crazy. Like, what was it? Was it yesterday or the day before when they had the big rallies in Michigan over the stay-at-home orders? A lot of them
Right.
together and protesting the stay-at-home orders. And it's like, what are you doing?
Right. I mean,
I get it.
people get a right. I mean, they got a right to do what they, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
you're right. The unfortunate thing is that they have this gathering. Now, I don't want anybody to get sick, but if somebody gets sick or a large group of those people get sick and and they get a bunch of other people sick, like, now you've purposely created a problem where there wasn't one before, and now you're taking resources away from other folks that made good choices, you know, and it just kills you to see the level of sometimes unthinking out there. But at the same time, I get it that you don't want to stay at home, and I know that Michigan has been, I think, a little more harsh in their enforcement, because like yesterday, we're supposed to stay at home here, but we drove up yesterday to my cousin's house to get some furniture. He's selling this huge property that his dad left him, and so we went up there to get a piece of furniture he was given to us.
right.
Picked it up, brought it back home, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm not down with ticketing or arresting, or I mean, certainly. I mean, you saw the dragging the guy off the bus in
Yeah,
Philadelphia, or the guy playing t-ball in the park with his family, or you know, getting arrested in front of his daughter, or you know, like, people can be given the information. It's a difference if you're going to have large things that businesses that have large gatherings of
yeah,
people. It's definitely a difference, and it's not an easy answer because if you make it voluntary, then the people who don't care about the externality of the health impact
yeah,
they will profit, and those who want to be more civically responsible and try to pay their employees and not be open, like, they'll lose their business. So it's like a difficult situation. But
yeah,
I see what I consider, I guess, a disingenuous argument about all the, like, no quarantining at all, is that, I mean, I'm down with questioning the idea of a nation state, right? That the nation state has a monopoly on violence. So we trade what are human rights for the state to have the violence to carry those out.
Mm-hmm.
And in the United States, we use that violence to protect private property is paramount. So this is a nation based on private property rights. So anybody who's, participating in mass capital or financialization and, and markets and whatever are part of this, this agreement that we allow monopoly violence for the state to protect personal property rights. But now all of a sudden they're like, oh, we don't want quarantine measures because we don't think the hospital's property is worth anything, or those jobs. Like we're not going to allow the state, to exercise their authority to protect the public health infrastructure or people's investments in the property of hospitals that will be overwhelmed and destroyed. And I guess, you could make the argument that by the quarantining that we're actually damaging the hospitals because they can't do the elective surgeries that make them real money.
Some of the money, yeah.
Which I think should be a red flag for us all, because what you're saying is that the things that keep public health are not very profitable, and so therefore will just become less and less important. And the things that are more, more not necessary to our immediate survival, although I'm certainly not saying that all these elective surgeries, because a lot of them are, absolutely necessary. But I'm talking about the financial incentive is kind of flipped upside down in a way, or is becoming, like apparent that, so if the drug is a generic drug, there's not really a lot of profit to be made in promoting that, even if it promotes public health, because
Alexa, stop. Sorry. I had an Alexa alarm going off for something. But
but it's definitely becoming eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people in the public health, doctors and nurses, and they're seeing the cracks in the system.
Yeah.
The perverse financial incentivization. And one thing that I heard, recently was that, I guess after the SARS outbreak, whatever, the Obama administration looked at the ventilator situation and, saw that, wanted to find a cheaper alternative that we could contract and, have the government to come up with either a stockpile of ventilators that could be used. So they contracted a company who would come up with a system to make low cost ventilators that were much cheaper than the $6,000 ones that are now. At the last I heard, some reports are going for $16,000. Yeah, because that's the free market, you know. Although there's anti-gouging laws, so I don't, people are. So
well,
I don't know where that sits, how they get away with that, or what's the loopholes. So I haven't looked into that enough. So I certainly am not qualified to, I guess, talk about that. But I did hear that data point. But so that the Obama administration contracted with this company to produce these low-cost ventilators, and what happened was a larger ventilator company bought out the smaller company, and then discontinued the production of these ventilators, and then reneged on the contract and did everything they could and successfully got out of the contract.
Surprise!
So there you're like, oh, capitalism, markets will solve everything. Really? Okay, really? Yeah, that's how it works. Oh, okay. Please tell me more.
All right. Yeah.
Like, what more could you do? What more could you do? But then find people who are willing to produce low cost ventilators, make them, you know. Now of course there could be other things that we were unaware of, that maybe this story is not, you know, that's not true. Maybe this is only one part of the truth. There could have been mitigating circumstances, but that's not unheard of in the,
not even a little
not
bit.
unheard of the small company with something innovative that might be a cheaper product that would challenge a larger company buying it up and just squashing it. You know, if they can't figure out a way to monetize it and make it, you know, more profitable, there's no reason to come out with a cheaper version of your own product that is going to undermine your sales. Like, it's more profitable to spend all that money to buy that company and squash it, you know, or to steal their manufacturing processes and just lower your cost to make it without lowering, you know, that just increases your profitability now, because you can just keep selling it for what the market was willing to pay for it, because you have a monopoly on the product already. You know? So
Unsustainable capitalism, right? I mean, it's ultimately going to kill us all. Got to consume.
Well, good news is we all die anyway. So
yeah, right.
That's it. That's our only ideology that's left, is cynicism.
Yes.
It's baked into the pie. And, but it's not too. I mean, real human connection is the idea, I think, and that's why I think you see the polarization, because we don't really have conversations with people, direct people to people. I've hardly found anybody there I go with the hyperbole language again. I mean, I've found over and over people who don't share any of my views, maybe politically or experience wise. I find very easy to talk to. Mm-hmm. They're always something that we can connect with. You know, if maybe cynicism is one of the things, you know, like, because people always have, you know, concerns, even if they're on the right or on the left, and like, we all share like a human experience. It's very similar in nature, and the way we talk to people, that becomes more important than some belief, you know. So then you're you know, it's like, I'd say my stepbrother was totally, you would hate the term homophobic. He's like, I'm not scared of gay people, I just think it's morally wrong, you know, like, I just think they're just wrong, you know. People, there's something wrong with them biology, you know, biologically, and if you were sick, you'd go to a doctor and you'd get fixed, you know. And then he ended up having you know, somewhat of a relationship with, you know, with his half brother, my other stepbrother, who was gay and had a partner for his whole life. They were just a couple, just like any other couple, and he went and spent some time with them, and after that he's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I was wrong. Like, who cares about that? I want the relationship. The real relationship with his brother made him see they're just normal, like, this is like any other normal married couple, you know. They work together, they do they create their life together, and it's like, he's like, you can't see anything wrong with it, you know. And that just like that, you know. And you see that with, I've seen that happen with neo-Nazis and people who are, you know, caught up in a real extreme situation, or even people who have had grown up in sexual abuse, and they just, like, you just take it as normal. Like, you don't know that, like, you don't think something wrong happened to you. You just think, but once, sometimes when these people have children themselves, and then they look at their like 4-year-old child, all of a sudden they can't hold those beliefs anymore. Like, all of a sudden they know it's wrong. And you've seen people, neo-Nazis or whatever, just snap right at it. Just, they look at their kids. And that's not everybody, but, you know,
there's a guy.
That's that connecting with humanity being more important than this emotional attachment to some idea that you never could quite prove. And you probably had a question about it, because I know I've done that, gone along with stuff, and you're like, well, this, I'm not really sure. Like, I'm not sure that makes so much sense, but there's no reason to really, you know, fight back against it. But once you're you know, once the rubber meets the road, you're like, yeah, I don't know. I have no basis to hold on to that piece of information, really.
Daryl Davis, that's the guy. He's a blues musician, African American man who has.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's befriended. Like he went out, like it's his hobby. So is he goes out and finds Klan members and neo Nazis and white nationalists and befriends them and makes friends with them and talks with them and sits down and has a discourse. And like he's converted like more than 200 or 300 of them away from those belief systems. And it's like, that's all it takes is
he's like, how do you hate me? You don't even know me. And then you start playing music and everybody's like, hey, I have a good time, you know, like, and you're like, hey, you're like, and it just starts to, you know, it connects you with humanity, and you realize, well, why did I have these other beliefs? Oh, because I was in the in group, and this in group was, you know, but like maybe there's a bigger group to be part of that is even more satisfying than just, you know, than just the small, you know, minded group that I'm a part of. Yeah, so I mean, I watched the movie, I guess, about him. I don't know. Did you see that?
I don't know if I did. I probably read it.
Really kind of brutal, man. He's like, he gets ripped a new one, and you know, by some activists in Baltimore, they just so enraged, you know, that he's just there's something wrong with him, and he just sits there and takes it, and they just like curse him out, and he's just like, hey, this is what I go through, you know, like this is, you know, and in the end, one of the guys like apologized, and they kind of, you know, like they kind of agreed that, I mean, once they watched that video, probably they're like, hey, this is not right. Like, this is not helping. But one of the things that I think of is he sat down with a lawyer at the Southern Poverty Law Center, and during this, and they were talking about how he's, you know, connecting with people, and pretty much, you know, the expert from the lawyer was just telling you don't know what you're doing. You're playing with fire. It's not real. You're not really stopping anything. You're in the way, basically, you know. And it's like, you got it backwards, son. Right? We need everybody to be like that musician.
Yeah.
More people to be that are like that actually care about human connection and actually talking with people and getting to know each other on a personal level, and then letting these ideas just be, okay, you have an idea about your thing, and I have an idea about my thing, and maybe you can teach me something that, okay, I'll go look that up and be like, okay, well, now I know for sure that's not true. You know, and it's like, sometimes it's the fear, right? So you talk to somebody, and then they bring in a new piece of information. So I was having a conversation with a friend who would come over to help us do some electrical work, and really nice guy, tries to be level-headed, tries to think things through, but he's more on the kind of right-leaning side, and he was talking about like the climate change, and you know, and Greta Thunberg, and how it was wrong that you know, adults are exploiting her for, like, you know, in that way, and somebody who's, you know, and somebody who's autistic and, you know, like mentally deficient, you know, or like, that was what I heard, you know. I think he just said autistic or whatever, and I was just like, I was like, first of all, like, she's 15 or 16, like, she has her own. To me, I have a different understanding from being I mean, stemming from being a youth myself, and how I felt when I was 13, you know, through those ages, and then working with youth of those ages, I can see developmental stages and what, you know, they're available, and you know, to just call them any kind of agency that a youth of that age takes as just being a puppet of the adults in the room is not, you know, I don't find that compelling. But the fact that I had no idea that she had Asperger's, like, it didn't appear to me. Like, so I just was like enraged, like calling her autistic, like this you know, like somehow she's, you know, like mentally retarded.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, she's not, you know, and just like freaking just enraged because I didn't know. But then I went and looked it up, and I'm just like, oh, and I feel so bad, right? Because I'm like totally wrong, right? She takes her Asperger's as a, you know, with pride, and that, you know, like it's her benefit to be able to just focus on the one issue and read about it and educate herself to the extent, you know, and it's something that she wears with pride, and the fact that I didn't know it, you know, like, and that's where my rage comes from, my ignorance, right? Because I didn't know, and I, you know, and at that point I was kind of trapped in not talking with people and not, you know, so it's like, and I feel bad, you know, but that's why you talk to people and they tell you something you don't know. It's like, just put that in the back of your mind. Be like, hey, maybe that's something to look up later. You know, maybe I need to, you know, so at least I can understand where the person's wrong, or where maybe I was wrong, or I can come to a new understanding, which is what happened, right? Because I wasn't not going to look it up, you know, so I did have a, you know, like a new understanding of that.
Oh, all right. Well, how about we wrap this one up and make a plan maybe to do, I'm thinking probably Thursdays or Fridays will work a little bit better. I just had a lot of stuff going on this particular week, but maybe make a plan to sit down and do these on Thursday or Friday mornings. What do you think about that?
That sounds good.
All right, my friend. So I will get this all edited and posted here sometime today. And thanks for talking with me.
All right. Thank you.
Have a beautiful Saturday.
You as well.
Love you, man. Peace.
Later.